catastrophic weather event has plunged New Zealand's capital into a state of emergency. On Monday, April 20th, 2026, an unprecedented deluge struck Wellington, unleashing more than half a month's worth of rain in a single hour. The sheer intensity of the storm has overwhelmed infrastructure, triggered widespread evacuations, and left the city grappling with its most significant flooding event in decades. The crisis began when a stationary atmospheric river collided with a cold front directly over the Cook Strait. According to Met Service, the Wellington City Weather Station recorded a staggering 77 millimeters of rain in just 60 minutes. This is not just a heavy rain event, it is a statistical anomaly, said a lead meteorologist. The drainage systems in a hilly city like Wellington are designed for significant runoff, but no urban system can process that volume of water instantaneously. We are seeing what we call urban canyon flooding, where streets effectively become rivers. The red and orange heavy rain warnings remain in place for Wellington, Porirua, and the Hutt Valley. Authorities warn that with the ground already saturated, even moderate rainfall over the next 48 hours could trigger further landslides. The southern suburbs have borne the brunt of the destruction. Areas like Newtown, Burrampore, Island Bay, and Brooklyn have seen water levels rise to waist height within minutes. This critical transport artery became a graveyard for abandoned vehicles. Bus services were suspended as water entered the cabins of public transport vehicles, forcing passengers to wade to safety. In Brooklyn and Kingston, the steep terrain exacerbated the danger. Massive landslides have cut off several streets, including Ohiro Road, where residents reported the sound of a freight train as mud and debris slammed into residential properties. The city's primary medical facility faced a critical situation when the underground parking and ambulance bays were inundated. While clinical services remain operational, the public has been urged to avoid the emergency department unless the situation is life-threatening. The most harrowing news comes from South Karori, where a large-scale search and rescue (SAR) operation is underway. Philip Sutton, a man in his 60s, remains missing after his home was partially destroyed by a massive mudslide. "We are doing everything we can, but the ground is extremely unstable," said a spokesperson for the New Zealand Police. Thousands of residents have been displaced. The Wellington Region Emergency Management Office, WREMO, has issued a directive for residents in low-lying areas of Island Bay and Lyall Bay to self-evacuate. The fear is not just the water, but the structural integrity of homes built on Wellington's iconic but precarious hillsides. The city's infrastructure is under immense strain. The sheer volume of rain caused the sewage system to overflow. Unji-treated wastewater is currently being discharged into Tarakina Bay. A no-swim advisory has been issued for the entire coastline from Ōwhiro Bay to Breaker Bay. State Highway 1 is closed at multiple points. The Mount Victoria Tunnel, a vital link to the east, has seen intermittent closures due to flooding at the portals. Wellington Airport has reported dozens of cancellations, leaving hundreds of travelers stranded. In response to the crisis, the Wellington City Mission, Whakamaru, at 4 to 8 Oxford Terrace, Mount Cook, has been transformed into the primary welfare center. "We are seeing people arrive with nothing but the clothes on their backs, shivering and in shock," said a city mission volunteer. The center is providing emergency beds and blankets, hot meals and clean drinking water, trauma counseling and medical checkups. The Salvation Army in Newtown is on standby as an overflow facility. Local businesses have also stepped up, with many cafes offering free coffee and shelter to those unable to reach their homes. Wellington's mayor and regional leaders have urged for calm, but emphasized the severity of the situation. "This is a test of our city's resilience," the mayor stated during a press briefing at the Emergency Operations Center. "Our priority is life safety. Please, if you do not need to be on the roads, stay home. If you feel unsafe, move to higher ground immediately." The New Zealand government is currently assessing whether a national recovery fund will be triggered to assist with what is expected to be a multi-million-dollar cleanup and repair bill. As night falls, the city remains on high alert. The forecast predicts intermittent heavy bursts of rain through Tuesday night. The risk of delayed landslides, which occur hours after the rain stops as water seeps deeper into the soil, remains the primary concern for emergency services. Residents are encouraged to check the WRMO Facebook page and listen to local radio for the latest evacuation orders. Meanwhile, a woman on Wright Street in the Wellington suburb of Mount Cook saw half a dozen cars floating when she looked outside her window. Jane Loughnane said she woke up around 4:30 a.m. and saw water everywhere. There was water down the bottom of my path, which has never happened before. We're really close to Prince of Wales Park, and a lot of debris had come down through the Papawai stream and flooded sort of the lower end of our street. It comes as torrential rain in the region has caused flooding and landslips. Emergency vehicles are out around the city, with pictures showing large amounts of water flowing along main routes. Loughnane said there was mud everywhere, and tow trucks had arrived, trying to work out how they're going to tow the cars away. She said all of her neighbors had been out, trying to move some of the mud so we can actually sort of have half a foot path that people can get through. So yeah, just a little bit of a mess. Loughnane said her house was okay, but the house across the street and another on the corner had water come up to their front door. She thought there had been a little bit more damage up on Salisbury Terrace, but had not made it up that far yet. All of her neighbors were out with hoses and brooms and shovels and everything. Lots of photos and talking and scratching of heads. Meanwhile, a resident on Wellington's south coast says there is a car submerged in the river mouth where the stream flows onto the beach in Ōwhiro Bay. She says she's also spotted a fridge floating in floodwaters. Another resident, Jess Allen, said the flood damage was severe, with several houses inundated and cars washed out to sea. She told RNZ that there was debris everywhere on Hutt Valley Road, from the suburb of Brooklyn down to Ohiro Bay. I'm on the side of the road that's not affected, but the side of the road where the stream goes down behind the houses. That stream came up very rapidly in the night, and families had to evacuate, she said. Someone had to climb out their windows to get to the neighbor's house. Allen said Ōwhiro stream had raged. She had also spotted the car on Ōwhiro Bay beach and said there were 3 others that are just missing. Ōwhiro stream had broken bridges, and there were also fallen trees alongside the debris, she said. I drove my electric car to work, but I really wish I'd had a 4-wheel drive. Met Service's severe thunderstorm warning was lifted before 6 a.m. as the heaviest downpours eased, but rain was still affecting parts of the city. More orange weather warnings and yellow watches were in place for Monday as a low-pressure system crossed the country. Vogeltown resident Janice McLaughlin woke at 4 this morning to a river outside her window. She lives with her husband Jimmy on Balfour Street, and her son lives in the house at the back of the property. Torrential rain has brought flooding and landslips to the region. Emergency vehicles are out around the city, with pictures showing large amounts of water flowing along main routes. In the suburb of Mount Cook, half a dozen cars had been seen floating down the street. Water on Balfour Street had risen high enough to float Janice's Toyota Corolla 90 degrees sideways and halfway across the driveway, a glass bottle wedged between the tire and the body of the car. 2 brick walls were lying in bits, one over the driveway on top of a layer of silt, and one had fallen into the neighbor's garden. Jimmy's vintage cars, 1920s Chevrolets, which he'd owned since he was a young man, were parked in the garage and badly water damaged, as was his stamp collection, which had been worth thousands, which was among the treasure trove of old items in his man cave. It was like a little museum, stuff I've found, he said. Janice said she was feeling a bit numb, because I don't quite know. We'll just have to get on with it. Met Service's severe thunderstorm warning was lifted before 6 a.m. as the heaviest downpours eased, but rain was still affecting parts of the city. More orange weather warnings and yellow watches were in place for Monday as a low-pressure system crossed the country.